Continuing with lesson 58 part 7, we're going to look at the function of the wrists. Now, in the last couple of sections we've talked about the shoulders igniting the swing and the forearms then allowing the swing to amplify. So there's a mix of shoulder and forearms. So I've got a sand iron here and I'm just going to play a little lofted chip. I pull the club up my sleeve, I walk in and I just use my shoulders to go back and through a small distance. Now you can see that because this is a weaker club, the ball doesn't go as far as the 6 iron, although the power is the same. So with this weaker club, I have to hit the ball with a bit more authority, but I'm still just chipping with the shoulder, hands and arms, back and through. So there we go, you see, very accurate, and that chipping mechanism is based on putting. Now hopefully it's apparent to you that as the shoulders facilitate this mechanism, the forearms were invisible. There was a hint of forearm rotation, but it was almost invisible, okay? So, I'm now going to chip beyond the yellow flag to the back of this chipping green, and it means that I'm going to go to a full length chip. Now, if I move my shoulders to the mat, there is the max. But if I stand up, can you see that the face has rolled half its journey? It happens for free. If your grip and posture are good and you turn on the correct plane, then the rotation of the forearms is almost automatic. So this is a bigger chip. This is the back of the green. This is going well over the yellow flag. Okay? So I've still got the accuracy, but the ball is thrown up into the air. Now, psychologically, it's a tough trick. If you hit a putter 10% harder, it goes 10% further. But when you have a 56-degree wedge in your hand, when you hit a 56-degree wedge 10% harder, 9.5 of those percent go up into the air and only 0.5% going forward. So you have to practice to get yourself to believe that for a ball to land softly and fly high actually requires speed. So you can see that with the shoulder, arms and hands, very simply, the chipping mechanism is very effective. And with that sand iron, with that simple mechanism, I can probably chip 50 to 60 yards. Now, if I'm going to go further than that, this is my max, then wrist cock must occur. So now we're going to add wrist hinge in. Now the moment you mention wrist hinge to golfers, particularly senior golfers, they perceive that wrist hinge will be less accurate. But the reverse is true. Wrist hinge gives you more speed and more power in the club head, but enhances your accuracy. Why is that? Well, let me show you. There's our fence post, there's our hammerhead. I can go up and down in plane with no wrist hinge. But if my wrists are passive, I'm inviting the forearms to roll. Wrist hinge keeps me in the plane. If I turn sideways, I'm in plane non-wristy, I'm in plane wristy. The plane is enhanced by wrist hinge. So when you use a sand iron, the shortest club in your bag, that will be the shortest and most wristy mechanism, and that wrist hinge will give you accuracy. By the time you morph to the 13 clubs, wrist hinge is not an issue, forearms are. So in the accuracy stakes, wrist hinge is essential. The problem is, of course, when you're on a bare lie or under pressure, you get tense, and the first place that tension attacks is the wrists. So, if I'm going to go from chipping into pitching, I take the chipping mechanism, which is about 2/3 of the swing, and I add in the wrist hinge, the missing third. So now I'm going to actually land the ball over the grassy mound, because with the sand iron, I'm going to go shoulder, forearm and wrist. I'm now going to pitch. So this is a pitch, about a 60, 70 yard pitch with my sand iron. See, the ball goes further, and look, you see wrist hinge in my follow through. So, that wasn't my best shot. You'll have to give me a mulligan. Okay, this is a mix of shoulder and wrist. I'm now pitching. There you go. So I've put the ball in the bracken just to make the point. So we start with the shoulders, that gave us a chip. We allowed the forearms a little bit, and then the wrist hinge took us into pitching. So let's have a look at using explainer. I'm now going to mix the shoulder to the wrist. Can you see that? Show it in 3. This is wrist cock, this is forearm rotation, and this is shoulder turn. Now you know my catchphrase. I've made golf as simple as possible. It's shoulder, forearms and wrists. I want to give you 3 for the price of 2. If your wrists hinge as the shoulders turn, guess what? Your forearms behave automatically. So whether you're hitting a putt, a chip, a pitch, an intermediate shot or a driver, how the forearms function within the swing is not just about power, it's about accuracy. Your short clubs require the most wristy swing, and your driver has no need for wrist hinge at all, hardly. Okay, so once you're set up, if you understand shoulder turn and you understand wrist hinge, the complexity of forearm rotation is dealt with. So there you have it. Shoulders, forearms and wrist, 3 elements, but I've given you 3 for the price of 2.